Nowadays, the Archbishop of Canterbury is best known as the person who officiates British royal weddings: Harry and Meghan, William and Kate, and before them, Charles and Diana. In medieval times, however, it was a very different story. The Archbishop of Canterbury was unbelievably powerful. Imagine if someone was the Prime Minister, as well as the Chief Judge, as well as the head of a global corporation. Then you're getting close to the power wielded by this one position. So when Thomas Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury, is assassinated by a group of knights in 1170, it sends shockwaves across medieval Europe. Thomas Becket's star had risen incredibly quickly and from an unlikely starting point. But when his fall came, it was fast and brutal. As Thomas Becket lies dead on the floor of the Canterbury Cathedral in England, people quickly gather around his corpse with bits of cloth and small containers. They're rushing to scoop up his blood before it dries on the cold stone. Some are local villagers, others are clerics and monks who work in the church. What they have in common is an understanding that this death is shocking and momentous, and that this martyr's blood is about to become extremely valuable. In fact, for the next 100 years, small jars with a mixture of Becket's blood diluted with water are sold to Christian pilgrims as the water of St. Thomas. And pilgrims from across Europe will clamour for the stuff, believing it has the power to heal, to cure illness, to heal injuries. Some believe that it could even bring the dead back to life. Almost immediately after Becket's death, stories of miracles begin circulating. And only 2 years after his murder, the church makes him a saint, St. Thomas. But right now, back in the cathedral, people are doing their best to avoid stepping on bits of Becket's brain, which are covering the floor. Hello, my friend. I'm Aslan Pahari, and this is Assassins, the show where we tell the stories of the world's most shocking assassinations. Born to a wealthy middle-class merchant family around the year 1120, Thomas Becket receives a kind of elite European education usually reserved for the children of nobility. As a young man, he's brilliant, politically astute, and not especially religious. But he is ambitious. He works hard and climbs fast. And when he gets a job in the household of the Archbishop of Canterbury, he's afforded a front row seat to decision-making in the kingdom. This eventually leads him to one of the top secular jobs in medieval Europe, Chancellor of England. So why does a man like Thomas Becket end up being assassinated on the floor of the most important church in the country? England in the mid-1100s is a bit of a mess. Henry II is crowned King of England in 1154 at the age of just 21. And despite his youth, he immediately inherits some very grown-up problems. The kingdom has just survived 2 decades of civil war, a period now known as the Anarchy. The royal treasury is depleted, members of the nobility have gone rogue, and law and order has broken down in parts of the kingdom. To make matters worse, the clergy see the anarchy as an opportunity to extend their independence. King Henry II finds himself left to pick up the pieces. He has to regain authority across the land and over the powerful English church. But he can't do this alone. He needs someone who's brilliant and tireless and can get things done. Someone he can trust completely. King Henry finds that person in Thomas Becket, who by this point is in his mid-30s. One of the first things Henry does after being crowned is make Becket his Chancellor. It's a massive job. As the king's most trusted aide, he's put in charge of the kingdom's legal and administrative systems. Basically, the day-to-day running of the kingdom. And so, despite their age difference, the two become close friends, and a new world opens up to Thomas Becket. The king showers him with vast estates of land, a huge income, hundreds of knights for his personal staff, expensive clothing, and other luxuries. Thomas Becket is given everything a person could dream of, including the respect of the most powerful man in the land. Henry even sends his eldest son and heir to live in Becket's household, so Becket can raise and educate him. Thomas Becket adapts well to his new status, becoming a generous and extravagant host. He once reportedly paid 100 shillings for a very rare and tasty type of eel. To put that into perspective, that's more than the annual salary for a master carpenter at the time. One of his household staff also noticed another side to him. Becket was friendly to all men, compassionate towards the poor. And anyway, Becket was never just dining and hunting and carousing. He quickly became Henry II's key weapon to reform the kingdom. And the king put that weapon to use straight away. Together, King Henry II and Thomas Becket regained control of the more independently minded barons. They influence church appointments and take back crown land. They make important legal reforms. The pair worked together for almost 7 years. And Becket may have stayed in that role for many years to come if the king hadn't offered him yet another job. A job that puts his most trusted deputy at the top of the one institution that can still challenge royal power. In charge of the one group whose first allegiance isn't to them, but to Rome and God. Henry II needs Becket to take on the church from the inside as the Archbishop of Canterbury. It's 1166. Archbishop Thomas Becket gets up for 2 a.m. prayers. He prays a lot these days. Underneath his religious robes, he's nearly always wearing a hair shirt. That's right, a shirt made out of hair. Their hair is most likely coarse goat's fur, and Becket's is often ridden with fleas. The whole point of a hair shirt is that it's supposed to feel uncomfortable against your skin, to itch and to irritate. It proves that you want forgiveness for past sins. That's right, gone are the days of royal extravagance. Gone are the lavish feasts, the hunting days with the king, and regular bathing. Archbishop Thomas Becket's days now have a different kind of rhythm. Witnesses say the change in him is sudden and deep. He'd only been ordained a priest a few days before becoming archbishop. Even for a man accustomed to big career leaps, this was incredibly fast. But by all accounts, he isn't faking it. King Henry has put his loyal advisor in charge of one of the only parts of his kingdom where his authority remains weak, where Rome still calls the shots. Henry wants Becket to keep his old job as King's Chancellor, as well as being Archbishop. Instead, once in the new job, Becket surprises Henry by resigning as Chancellor. What's he up to? This is not the Becket that Henry has been plotting and planning with for so long. Becket's resignation strikes a wedge between the two that only deepens from here. For 2 straight years, Archbishop Becket resists all attempts to bring the church under royal control. He sides with church independence at every opportunity. With their close relationship unraveling, Henry goes on the offensive and makes it personal. The king begins confiscating Becket's titles and land. He even gets him audited for the huge sums of money he spent while he was Chancellor. In 1164, he commands the Archbishop to face the King's Council and explain himself. Instead, he dons a disguise and flees to France in the middle of the night. Archbishop Becket remains in exile for almost 6 years. Attempts were made to reconcile Becket and King Henry, but each time they get close, one of them reneges. It's a tense time. Things get so bad between the two that, despite Becket having the support of the Pope, the king orders a new archbishop to replace him. Becket is furious, but eventually the pair come to a fragile truce, and Becket crosses the sea back to England. Almost immediately, Becket pulls a major power move. It's Christmas Day, 1170. Becket publicly excommunicates the bishops who'd worked against him. From the pulpit in Canterbury Cathedral, he's said to have thundered, "May they all be damned by Jesus Christ." Why such a public denunciation? Was he daring the king to react? It's hard to be sure of the accuracy of quotes from 900 years ago. But on hearing the news, the king responds, quote, "What a parcel of fools and dastards have I nourished in my house, and not one of them will avenge me of this one upstart clerk." Others say it was actually phrased this way: "Will no one rid me of this troublesome priest?" Whatever was actually said, it seems certain King Henry was pissed. But whether he meant it literally, we cannot be sure. 4 days later, it's December 29th, 1170. Archbishop Thomas Becket is on his way to the Canterbury Cathedral to hear the evening prayer. According to witnesses, 4 knights, spurred on by the king's angry words, arrive in Canterbury to confront the archbishop. They hide their swords behind a tree, seek him out, and demand he goes with them. Becket refuses and heads into the cathedral. Minutes later, the knights return with their swords, shouting as they enter the church, "Where is Thomas Becket, traitor to the king and country?" And when they find him, they strike him a number of times. An eyewitness later recalls that near the end of the attack, Thomas Becket whispers, "For the name of Jesus and the protection of the church, I am ready to embrace death." A blow from the sword chops off the top of Becket's head, his brains spilling out. More blows come, and his body falls to the ground. When news reaches the king that Thomas Becket has been assassinated, he's said to be devastated. This is not what he wanted at all, personally or politically, but he agrees that his words might have inspired the knights. The church in Rome threatens to take action. King Henry immediately performs a penance of fasting while dressed in a hair shirt. He then walks barefoot to Canterbury Cathedral and allows over 80 bishops and monks to beat him repeatedly. We don't know how sincere he is by doing this penance, but whatever the case, King Henry has lost this battle to control the church. Secular reformer, religious leader, saint. Thomas Becket was all of these things. When he worked for the king, he sought to break church authority. When he led the church, he defended its independence. And then, in death, he became a saint, rewritten again as a whole new person. So did Thomas Becket shape all of these roles, or did the roles and history shape him? What would he make of this question? And if he were able to see what happened after his death, would he be shocked? For almost 400 years after Becket was assassinated, pilgrims travelled from great distances to visit the spot where he died. Some crawled on their knees as they entered the cathedral, believing that he could offer them a miracle. His story even makes it into the literary canon. Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales is kind of a 14th century pilgrim's road trip written in verse. But then, in the 16th century, the saintly version of Thomas Becket comes under attack, and from another King Henry, this time Henry VIII, a ruler who also struggles to control church power. He calls the St. Thomas Shrine a cult and has it destroyed, and orders all references to Becket to be erased. Henry VIII eventually succeeds in breaking the English church away from the power of Rome in what's now known as the Reformation. 2 kings, both trying to control the church in England. One made Becket archbishop, one tried to erase him from history. Thank you for watching, my friend. Do you think King Henry really wanted someone to kill Becket? Let us know in the comments.